All right. Welcome to another Webinar Wednesday. This time we are discussing applied anthropology and archaeology in the National Park Services and working with the CESU Network. With me, I have some amazing people. I have Joe Watkins, who is the Supervisory Cultural Anthropologist, American Indian Liaison Officer for the NPS, and Chief of NPS Tribal Relations and American Cultures. He oversees the Park Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, or NAGPRA, program, the Tribal Historic Preservation Program, and the Cultural Anthropology Program from the NPS Washington Area Service Office. Stanley Bond is also joining us. He is the Chief Archaeologist from the National Park Service and Consulting Archaeologist for the Department of the Interior. He has managed a number of CSU projects as a NPS Archaeologist, Resource Manager, and Superintendent. Current CESU projects sponsored by the NPS Washington Archaeology program include a Southwest Mission travel itinerary, a webinar lecture series, work with Latino high school students, analysis of digital imaging practices, and training for Afghan cultural heritage professionals. Jennifer Tolkien-Spalding is the Regional Cultural Anthropologist for NPS National Capital Region. She manages multiple applied anthropology projects and a student internship program in support of national park units in 3 states and the District of Columbia. Research topics include contemporary communities, heritage preservation, and urban subsistence fishing. Tom Fish will round out the group and is the National Coordinator for the Cooperative Ecosystem Studies Unit, or CESU Network. Tom works across government, academia, and the NGO community to facilitate collaborative research, technical assistance, and educational capacity development in support of public trust resource stewardship. Tom's work covers a wide range of topics relating to land use planning, marine conservation, applied social science and human dimensions, and training for protected area managers in the U.S. and abroad. Throughout this presentation, we will be asking questions of our audience, so feel free to chime in either through the chat box, or you have a very useful feedback button, which has a hand, a yes, no, and some other features. You are more than welcome to use those, and we will be keeping track of them as the presentation goes on. And with that, I turn it over to you, Jennifer, John, and I'm sorry, Joe and Stan.
Hello, this is Joe Watkins. Basically, I just wanted to welcome you to this Webinar Wednesday. The Cultural Anthropology program has been established to try to help liaise between communities, the parks, and the National Park Service, just to be certain that the concerns of local communities are taken into consideration. We were established initially as the National Park Service ethnography program, but underwent a name change last year just because we do more than just ethnography. That basically is just a brief introduction about the Cultural Anthropology program. I encourage you to get on the website to look us up and to work with the regional cultural anthropologists in the 7 regions in the Park Service across the United States. Again, welcome.
Hi, everyone. This is Stan Bond, and I'm as Andrew did in his great introduction, I'm the Chief Archaeologist with the National Park Service and the Departmental Consulting Archaeologist for the Department of the Interior. And I thought really what I wanted to do was just give you a quick overview from a personal perspective on how the CESUs have worked for parks that I've been associated with. And, of course, Jennifer is going to give you a much more in-depth look at some specific park projects, but I'm going to go over just a few very quickly. And I wanted to say that that there are many important benefits for the use of a Cooperative Ecosystem Studies Unit agreement. And the ones that I have found probably the most important, first is the ease of obligating funds through a task agreement. So the general agreement and all of the the contracting work is already done. And so all that needs to be done to obligate funds is a task agreement between the cooperator and the National Park Service to actually get a project funded and moving forward. Secondly, I think it's very important that that projects are jointly developed between the partner, between the CESU partner and the park or the Park Service unit that's carrying out the project. In that sense, both have kind of a full access and input into the project that's going on, and I think it makes for a better project and a better working relationship, and many times easier than doing a contract where we develop a scope of work and just put it out for a proposal. That things like the scopes of work and timelines and things are developed jointly between the cooperator and the Park Service. As a partnership agreement, the agreement is supposed to benefit both parties in a variety of ways, and I think that that CSU agreements do in many ways benefit both parties. And in one way, it gives the Park Service access to cutting-edge research that we can't find within our program or even within the federal government. It gives us access to that cutting-edge research that's being done by academia and other kinds of organizations. And for the partners, it gives access to parks, which are a unique resource. And we like to, or I often like to think of parks as laboratories where we can carry out important social and scientific research, and this gives them access to those partners to this Park Service resource. And perhaps last, but maybe the most important thing we do is we link students to potential Park Service careers through the projects that are carried out in national parks. And many students, interns, and others who have worked in national parks have ultimately gone on to become Park Service employees. I think it's an important route to show students the potential for working in the National Park Service or for a federal agency and the kinds of projects that can be carried out in those settings. So just to give you a very broad overview of the kinds of projects, and I think almost any kind of project can be done through a cooperative arrangement. So some projects that I was associated with in Hawaii was restoration and documentation of the Kaloko fish pond, and that included training for Native Hawaiians in traditional dry stack masonry, which was, I think, important in terms of maintaining their cultural heritage and the ability to maintain these fish ponds that are found throughout Hawaii, as well as other dry stack masonry structures that are found all across the state. And another important project was the documentation and analysis of Hawaiian petroglyphs. So again, archaeological type projects are certainly be funded through the CESU agreements. In California, through my association with the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail, we were able to do an historic resource study of the trail corridor, which gave us information for interpretation, education, and preservation of trail resources. We did analysis of 18th century Sinaloan lifeways. Since in our research we found that by far the vast majority of settlers in California came from Sinaloa, and we believe that obviously that it was those cultural traditions that were brought up into California and ultimately became the California lifestyle, the California culture that of late 18th and early 19th century California. And so we felt to understand the evolution of those cultural lifeways, we needed to go back to the source, which was in Sinaloa. And another important project we did was a look at Afro-Latino contributions to early California history. Again, in researching the people that came to California, almost all of them were mixed race, European, African, and American Indian groups, and we found that Afro-Latinos or people with some African heritage made up anywhere from 30% of the population that came on the ANZ expedition to over 50% that came up a little bit later and settled in Los Angeles. And so we wanted to take a look at their contributions in California and linking, you know, our understanding of Hispanic heritage not only, you know, to people from Spain, but to people from all over the world, both Africa and in North America. Projects in next Civil War battlefield. Some of the projects we were able to do with a CESU grant or CESU funding, a focus group study on African American attitudes towards the Civil War. That's a group that was obviously most heavily affected by the Civil War, which led to emancipation and then the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. But yet they weren't very integrated into our both our interpretation of the Civil War, and nor did they often visit Civil War sites. So we wanted to find out why that was, what is it that they would like to learn about the Civil War and link it to their heritage and move forward with that type of interpretation. And then as well, we used the CESU agreement to help put together Civil War symposiums on a whole variety of topics that were important to Civil War researchers, including topics on African American involvement in the Civil War. And then just finally, some projects that we're doing, again, through the Washington-based office. We're working on linking Latino students in the Tucson area to Hispanic heritage through archaeology, through the excavation in that area at Tumacacri Mission. But as well, it gives them an opportunity to visit a number of National Park Service sites, to interface with the archaeology labs at the University of Arizona, to do things on the university campus, to learn about university life. So that's been a really great project that we've been doing, and it's actually continuing this year. We're using the agreement to develop a Spanish mission travel itinerary, and that's done again in partnership with the University of Arizona and also with the Spanish Embassy here in Washington. And it will be our first travel itinerary that will be posted in both English and Spanish. And we're working on a website called the American Colonial Experience, in which we're trying to do a better job of interpreting American colonial history, the kind of the broad reach of American colonial history, not just the East Coast part of it, but the full range of it, and as well give access to a variety of resources for students and teachers to better interpret that experience in American history. And so with that, I would like to turn this on over to Jennifer to talk more about specific projects.
And while we're switching out here, this is our first check-in with you who are participating. So you can take this opportunity to raise your hand above your chat box or fill in any information if you would like to about your affiliation. We'd like to get a sense of who's joining us today. If you're joining us from a university, you can raise your hand, or from a federal agency, or from another organization. And a quick housekeeping question to Andrew. How do I make this full screen? By that? There we go. That's probably a little easier for everybody to see.
Okay. In full screen, if you look up at the top, you can still grab the tabs if you want by clicking on them, and you'll still be in full screen as an attendee.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll carry on so that we'll keep it in this side, and then that way we can also see what the responses are. So I would like to just briefly mention my name is Jennifer Talkin-Spalding, and I am the Regional Cultural Anthropologist for the National Capital Region. And I'm going to share some examples of current and completed projects, and then a little later about some of the upcoming projects. So the first project that we want to mention is at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in Michigan. This is an ethnobotany project that is producing a comprehensive catalog of culturally significant plants that grow in the park and information about the impact of climate change on those species. The results of this research will be used in consultation with the associated tribes to make decisions about mitigations and adaptation and sustainable use of plant resources within the park. The project is also serving as a prototype and model for this type of research to be carried out at other parks within the Midwest region in the future. We want to show you all a diversity of projects that are through anthropology and archaeology across the country today. So we're moving to Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona, where there is a partnership with the University of Arizona through the Desert Southwest CESU that completed 2 ethnographic reports on the ethnographic resources in the backcountry of the Grand Canyon and the Grand Canyon region. And the data about these ethnographic resources are pertinent to critical planning documents, a revised backcountry management plan, and an environmental impact statement that is currently in production with the Park Service. In Georgia, at Jimmy Carter National Historic Site, there is an ethnohistorical research and mapping project via the South Atlantic Coast CESU that was completed in partnership with the University of South Florida and the communities of Archery and Plains, Georgia, St. Mark AME Church, and President Jimmy Carter and his family. This was completed in 2012 and resulted in an ethnographic profile of the African American community of Archery, Georgia. Community engagement was a critical part of this research project, and with the community, they mapped the cemetery at St. Mark's AME Church. And this project was an important place of understanding, and it helped the research to provide new focus on the voices of descendants as primary resources in research and in public interpretation of the site. It also gave an opportunity for students to be participating in that project. In Alaska, Wrangell St. Elias National Park and Preserve has worked with the University of Alaska Fairbanks on Project Jukebox, which is a digital branch of the oral history program at the University of Alaska, and it provides access to audio and video recordings, transcripts, maps, historic photographs, and films from across Alaska. And the Wrangell St. Elias part of the project contains oral history interviews and photographs from Native and non-Native people who live near or have been associated with Wrangell St. Elias in south central Alaska. And this is one of the places where we have a hot link in the slide. So if you go back to the website after the presentation is done, when Andrew posts it, you'll be able to click on some of these links to go straight to, in this case, Project Jukebox. Some examples of archaeology projects include an ice patch archaeology project in Montana and Wyoming at Glacier and Yellowstone National Parks, where an interdisciplinary team of tribal experts, university researchers, and park managers have been working to survey, map, collect, and curate, where needed, cultural and paleobiological items from the park's ice patches. And experts from the area tribes have been integral to all phases of this project, which combined archaeological survey with oral history and contemporary cultural expertise. And the resulting program has located very well-preserved sites and objects in the ice fields. At Fort Vancouver National Historic Site, a field school is in play to highlight public archaeology. Fort Vancouver is a National Historic Site on the lower Columbia River, and it contains the remains of the Hudson Bay Company's Western fur trading operations. The public archaeology program, conducted in part with partnerships through CESU universities, including Portland State and Washington State University, Vancouver, this was used to develop new understanding and interpretation of the lives of the diverse population that occupied the village for much of the 19th century. And it is an example of a joint effort where public archaeology and museum collections come together to help inform park visitors. A very interesting program that the National Park Service Archaeology Program has been conducting since 2007 is a multiple partnership project with the U.S. Department of State's Cultural Heritage Center, the George Wright Society, U.S. ICOMOS, and the University of Arizona through the Desert Southwest CESU to produce cultural heritage management training for archaeologists from Afghanistan. Heritage professionals from Afghanistan's government and the University of Kabul have participated in both classroom-based and hands-on training at several National Park Service sites throughout the United States and at the University of Arizona. And our last example is from here in the National Capital Region. The Museum Resource Center, which is the regional curatorial facility in Maryland, maintains 2 CESU agreements for museum services, and it's through these agreements that we have processed archaeological material and completed baseline documentation such as our preparation of scopes of collection statements. And so those give you kind of a nice, well-rounded range of current and completed projects in the field that have been completed in partnership with CESU. And while I'm passing the ball to Tom Fish, who will be our next presenter, there's another opportunity to check in with you. So this is a question to see how many of you before today were familiar with the CESU network. You can either raise your hand or give us a yes or a no. And Tom, I'm passing it over to you now. There we go.
Okay.
Just as a note, it looks like a little bit around half of the people here are familiar. So it's a pretty good number.
Okay, good. So I'm going to go over a little bit of the structure and history of the CESU program itself, a little bit of the working details. But first, this slide where we've kind of put together a motto, if you will, weaving partnerships, building knowledge, and sustaining heritage. The program is dedicated to building partnerships across the public, non-public boundary. And as you've heard from the presenters so far, it's been really successful in many ways to bring together these different managers, scientists, students, practitioners of many stripes to perform activities that inform decisions on the ground. So the program itself, it sounds like many of you are familiar with the program, but just as some background for those who may be new this is a national consortium of federal agencies, institutions of higher education, tribal, state, and local governments, non-governmental organizations, conservation organizations, in some cases, professional societies and other partners working together in a collaborative fashion to support informed public trust resource stewardship. We have 15 federal agencies, and we have well over 350 non-federal partners in the program, distributed across 17 different CESUs, or biogeographic regions, that encompass all 50 states and U.S. flag territories. There was a map shown earlier, and that map will come up again in a moment. So how does it work? What do these agreements support? And they really are broad-ranging, but they bring together scientists, managers, students, educators, and other conservation professionals, cutting across many fields: biological, physical, social, cultural, engineering fields, or what I like to say, from A to Z, or anthropology to zoology and everything in between. And when I explain this program to folks, they are often surprised that it has such a breadth. But the thrust of the program is to support collaborative applied projects on natural and cultural heritage resource problems at multiple scales, from a site scale to regional scale to national scale, transboundary, all within an ecosystem context and a very broad definition of ecosystems, from wilderness to urban. A bit of history about the program, where it came from. Changes in the Department of the Interior back in the mid-90s led to conversations about, led to changes within several of the land management bureaus with regard to their scientific capacity, their in-house scientific capacity, and that led to conversations about how might the department and the bureaus maintain or recover some of that scientific expertise in the face of those changes. And one of the ideas was to foster partnerships between the federal agencies and the other members of the scientific community, the technical field staff, field experts within the NGO community and other state agencies and such, to foster a kind of palette or platform of expertise through partnerships rather than through rehiring federal employees. And so the idea was built upon some good ideas that were existing already. And many of you may be familiar with the Cooperative Park Studies Units, or the Fish and Wildlife Co-op Research Units, or some of the programs within the USDA, Soil Science Conservation Units, and others. So the notion was to find a way to develop through partnerships a methodology for supporting scientific activities, research, technical assistance, and education and capacity building. So the program was a concept that was scoped around the federal service and was eventually supported broadly and authorized through the National Parks Omnibus Act in 1998, leading to the development of what's called the CESU Network National Council, which I'll explain in a moment in another slide. And there were some early adopters, agencies. In the beginning, we had 6 agencies, and some agencies joined 1 or 2 CESUs, and then many of them have since joined most of or many of the CESUs of the 17 across the country. Some of the agencies are in all 17. And we've had a number of additional agencies joining over the years. The program is 15 years old this year. Well, actually 16 years old this year, if you count the first project starting in 1999. The first 5 years, we had a series of cooperative or of competitions to establish each of these regional units. And over time, the program has grown to support between 700 and 1,000 projects every year, upwards of $100 million in on-the-ground funded projects. Those cut across, as I mentioned, anthropology to zoology, many different scales, many different topics, with many different partners. The federal agency partners in the program are not limited to the Department of the Interior or National Park Service. National Park Service was a primary agency leading the charge in the beginning, but from the very beginning of the program, they were not alone. We had participation from other departments as well, and over time, we've added, as you can see in this list here, a number of other agencies. Our most recent addition is the Bureau of Indian Affairs that just joined the National Council in January of this year, and they're in the process of joining the Colorado Plateau CESU right now. This is a slide with a number of our partners, not all of our partners, but just to give you an idea of the breadth and variety of our non-federal partners and our federal partners. Try to find your organization in there. This is by no means all of them, but it's a good sampling. On the non-federal partner side, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we have institutions of higher education, both public and private, also tribal colleges, tribal, state, and local governments, everything from a county water management district to the Navajo Nation and the Narragansett tribe. We have state departments of natural resources and other government units. And a number of those have joined in recent times as well, some state agencies. We have non-governmental organizations, conservation organizations, science museums, the National Aquarium, for example, is another organization, the Missouri Botanical Garden, the San Diego Zoological Garden. We have museums of natural history. And interestingly, which I'll mention in a moment, but I'll mention here too, one of the challenges we have is the fact that some of the institutions that are members have wonderful museums of natural history and other organizations within their university complement that have no knowledge of the fact that they're part of this program. So trying to do outreach, and what we say outreach and in-reach, meaning reaching within the agencies and non-federal partners that are already in the program to make others within their institutions aware that this is an opportunity for them. And so at the last bullet there, the question often comes up, is my organization already a partner? And so I say check the website. We have resources on our national website, which is CESU.org, where you can go to find out if your institution is a partner and where in the program they're a partner. The structure of the program, I mentioned earlier that we have a national council that's made up of senior scientists and administrators from each of our participating federal agencies. That's the governing body for the program. Within each of the individual CESUs, we have a host institution that's a large tier 1 research institution. They have a number of partner academic and other institutions as well, and they also have a number of federal agency partners. Each of those CESUs also has what's called a Federal Managers Committee. So that is the representatives from each of the participating federal agencies within that CESU. And those individuals provide some guidance. They post funding opportunities and play a role in serving as brokers between management units and non-federal partners for developing cooperative agreements or task agreements, as Stanley mentioned earlier. Each of the CESUs is required to have a minority serving institution. We have, I believe, 47 in our program currently, looking for more opportunities from HBCUs and HSIs and other minority serving institutions. Each of the CESUs is administered under a 5-year cooperative agreement, or what's often called a master agreement, where all of the federal agencies and all of the non-federal partners are signatories to the same agreement. And in the agreement, it lays out the roles and responsibilities and expectations of each of the partners in carrying out the work under the unit. And those units every 5 years undergo a internal and external peer review, and the reviews then are submitted to the National Council for final determination with regard to subsequent 5-year terms or renewals of those 5-year agreements that are used to administer the CESUs. So this year we have a number of those underway right now, and the Council will decide in April about the next 5-year term for a number of those that are undergoing their renewal process. We also have, in the bottom left, a system-wide voluntary reduced indirect cost rate of 17.5%. In comparison to the standard negotiated, federally negotiated indirect cost rate, that is about 51% nationally for the top 100 research universities. This is quite a reduced rate, and so this has been a benefit to many of the federal agencies with regard to their ability to apply finite funds to project activities, and our institutional partners have been willing to participate and accept that in this program over the years, ever since its inception back in 1999. So this is a map of the units. Again, 17 units covering all 50 states and territories. The red stars on the map indicate the host institutions for each of those CESUs. So if you look in the Chesapeake watershed, that's the University of Maryland. It's administered through Frostburg State, which is a satellite campus within the University of Maryland system. Up in the North Atlantic, it's University of Rhode Island. The South Florida Caribbean, it's University of Miami. Hawaii Pacific Islands is University of Hawaii. So it's representative of a large region, each of these different CESUs, Great Lakes and Gulf Coast, Great Plains. You can see geographically they represent a very large geographic area. The boundaries that you see on here are not meant to be limiting to the location of a given project. A project might require the expertise of a academic scientist from a state on one side of the country, because that person is the best at the type of science and the expertise that is needed, or technical know-how that's needed for a given management unit in some other part of the country. So there are ways to connect those partners through the agreements where those federal agencies are a party to support collaborative projects in many parts of the country. And internationally. We haven't had a lot of international projects, but that's something that's on the rise. So in summary, and pointing back to some things that have been mentioned already, the program allows the agencies to do more with less, to expand their resident capacity by partnerships, to foster high quality multidisciplinary science that informs decisions, or we often call it usable knowledge. The program is responsive to emerging trends and problems that are facing these land management agencies. It's a very, very useful program for developing expertise and fostering capacity building, not only among students, but also within those federal staff, field staff, and scientists, and the partner community. And it's an excellent program to develop the next generation of scientists, managers, and environmental leaders, including the possibility to use it as a recruitment mechanism. When we have students working on federal lands, shoulder to shoulder with federal scientists and field staff, they can really get a taste of what it might be like to pursue a federal career in sciences or natural cultural resource management. So it's an excellent program, really unique in that fashion, or in that respect. To become a partner, if you've looked at the website and you find you're not listed and your institution is interesting, you can reach out to one of the CESU directors at the host institution. All this information is on our national website, and then each of the CESUs maintains a local website as well. But we recommend to have for first conversation, then submit a new member application to the CESU that's of interest. That application goes out for review and approval process among the current members. Once approved, there's an amendment made to the 5-year master agreement that it's drafted, undergoes a review and signature by the new party, new member applicant. And then once that passes a 45-day signature period, that new partner is officially on board and can actively participate and receive cooperative agreements and task agreement awards to do on-the-ground work. I put this in as an example. Our group talked about this yesterday, but working with tribal partners, and some of these have been mentioned earlier in the presentation, but the Ice Patch Archaeology project that has a number of different partners, won a DOI Partners in Conservation Award, Department of the Interior Partners in Conservation Award. The program has supported a number of different internships and field schools on many topics, but especially in archaeology and field methods. It's been used to support traditional ecological knowledge, digitization of oral histories. There's a new project, the Restructuring Submerged Paleocultural Landscapes. This is submerged cultural landscape analysis that's going on up in New England with the Narragansett tribe. It's supported transboundary archaeology, or transboundary Indian Trail archaeology, and the list goes on. There are many, many projects, and you've heard a number of those examples from our other speakers. Looking forward with the program, we're trying to continue to build coalitions across our current partner universe, but also bridging with other federally supported science networks, fulfilling the scope and potential of the program. I mentioned in-reach and outreach, making sure we're getting the word out to folks that might want to be, or institutions that might want to be part of the program, but also elements within institutions that are currently in the program and agencies as well, to make sure that folks are aware of this as an opportunity to support scientific and technical scholarly work. I mentioned international. We have a few partners in Canada and Mexico, but there is interest in supporting projects where any of our agencies have jurisdiction or a charge for, say, endangered and migratory species or cultural resources and those sorts of things. Evaluation for planning and improvement. We're trying to do a good job of understanding where the program is being effective and other places for improvement. So we have some activities ongoing as a program evaluation to support that. And then I put proof in the pudding, or return on investment. We have seen and continue to see the merits of the program with regard to people who have been in partner or have been participants in this program that are now working in public agencies or in academic community, or within the academy, and supporting their own students with CESU projects. And the national program is putting together, the national office is putting together a searchable database of all the projects that have been supported through the program that we hope to have up and running this year, so that people can go in and search on keywords to find out what projects have been supported over the years, the last 15 years. And I also mentioned we have resources online, so CESU.org is the national website. There are links to each of the other regional CESUs, fact sheets, project spotlights about good work that's been done, supported by many agencies and partners, policy documents, and the contacts for individuals around the system. So thanks very much. Thank you for your attention, and we're going to be happy to answer some questions coming up.
Tom, if you can pass the ball back to Stan. Great, thank you. And this is Jennifer again. Our final webinar participation check-in. We want to know how many students are tuned in with us today. So if you're a student and you could raise your hand by the chat box, that would be great as we go into this next section, which really is going to briefly mention how we have involved students in this type of work. I'm going to use the example of the subsistence fishing project. That is one of the projects that I'm working with here in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. It is a project that is, like Tom just mentioned, uses a team approach with multiple universities. So we have a project led by University of Maryland, but we also have Portland State University involved in this project, which will research and document subsistence fishing in multiple multilingual communities along about 47 miles of river in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And in this project, graduate students have been very important to our process as research assistants, and I plan to hire a higher level graduate student, hopefully, here in the near future to assist us with this project through the Pathways program. So in addition to directly funding student involvement through projects through CESU, sometimes we use our money through other internship programs and then partner them up with our projects that are with CESU. So examples, if you are students, the National Council for Preservation Education, the Student Conservation Association, the George Wright Society, which is a CESU member and supports climate change internships. Those are all really good resources for you. And again, these are all hot links. You can grab those after the session is completed. And in particular, I want to highlight the USA Jobs website, which is our federal employment website. And there is a link right on the front screen that says for students and recent grads. It's an important thing. And if you are an educator, it's important to tell your students because the Pathways program allows the federal government a special hiring authority to hire current students and also recent graduates who apply within 2 years of completing their degree. So it's good applied work and good career growth. Tom briefly showed you a slide about how you find out if you're in the network, and that's really where we're going to start to wrap this up, which is how do you know when there's opportunities available? So the first thing and the bottom line that we will probably all say is get to know your local CESU coordinator. When you spend time on the site, you'll see the Park Service, as has been mentioned, we're not the only agency or institution, and each of those other agencies have their own coordinators that you can find on the website. We also recommend getting to know the resource managers at the national park sites that are near you. One of the best opportunities of CESU lies in the fact that we can build partnerships with local units, understand how the needs of the site match your professional skills, and it allows us the flexibility to do direct project development for mutual benefit, and that's very helpful. A third way that we let people know about work is by issuing announcements and requests for letters of interest. So again, using my example of the subsistence fishing project here in the DC area, we posted the announcement on our website a year ago. This project kicked off in the fall. But at that time, we posted the announcement as an opportunity. We requested letters of interest through our CESU network coordinators. We did a mass email for requests of letters of interest, and we shared it on as many professional forums as we could to let people know that it was an opportunity that was available to them, and it was very successful. So the average timing of these types of projects is always of interest to people. So this is just to give you a little sense of things. The announcement and the request for letters of interest, if we go this route, typically happens about now, March and April in the spring. We work with the selected team to finalize the agreement language by early summer, and by late summer or early fall, typically the project will kick off. And then the duration of projects will depend on the need of that project. So typically projects may last for 12 to 18 months, but they can last as long as 5 years, the life of that particular agreement. So our final set of slides here is to tell you about opportunities that are currently available or that are coming up very soon. In the Northeast region, Fort Stanwix National Monument in New York will be doing an ethnographic study, and the project is currently seeking researchers to identify associations that American Indian tribes might attach to Fort Stanwix. And the particular research attention is focused on identifying and understanding the historic and contemporary associations with Fort Stanwix and treaties and treaty making. And that link, the deadline is March 31st. That link is a hot link to the full request for letters of interest that is posted online. The Midwest Archaeological Center, which is in Lincoln, Nebraska, will be shortly announcing an opportunity for an agreement to produce an administrative history for the center. And the target audience for researchers for this project will be historians and archaeologists. And the request for those letters of interest or statements of interest will be forthcoming and probably will close in June. That's also a hot link to their website there at the bottom of the screen. The Southeast region of the Park Service will have 3 projects coming up this year, and they're in different areas. Mammoth Cave, a national park in Kentucky, will be looking for a research team for the ethnographic overview and assessment for the park. The U.S. Virgin Islands National Park will be doing an ethnographic study of Hassel Islands and will be soliciting through the CESU Network and also looking at universities in Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands. And the Abraham Lincoln National Historical Park in Kentucky will be doing an ethnographic study of Knob Creek Lincoln Boyhood Home Unit, and all of those through the Southeast region will be announced through the CESU coordinators. So Tom has shown this slide before, but it's an opportunity for us to just remind everybody and about the web of work that we have been able to accomplish through the Cooperative Ecosystem Studies Unit Network. Today, in this webinar, we've been able to provide several examples of anthropological and archaeological research that has been done through our partners across the country. And the National Park Service really values the opportunity to work with these many partners within the network and accomplish the new and important research that is being done. It helps us connect parks and people, which is really what we're trying to do as we look forward to our next century of service that will begin in our centennial year next year in 2016. So from all of us here, we all want to thank you for your time and attention today. We're going to leave this on the final slide, which is the presenters today with, again, links to the various websites that will be available. And we have some time for questions. And we actually had a question that was sent in, so maybe we'll just jump right to that question. I'll just read it. The question is, do we find that the opportunity for notifications for ethnographic and archaeological projects are most commonly posted through CESU agreements or posted elsewhere? And if an entity isn't part of the CESU, can they pursue those opportunities? So thank you for that question. I can take the first part, and I will mention that in the anthropology field for the Park Service, most of the applied work that we are doing is done through CESU. We very rarely will do contract work. You know, it's a different mechanism, but we do most of our work through CESU projects. Tom, do you want to talk about how, if they're not part of the CESU right now, how they can still pursue, or if they have an affiliation?
Sure, you got to pass me the unit.
No, you're live. We can hear you.
I'm live. Okay. Oh, good enough. Yeah. So many of those things are posted at individual CESU sites, whether Park Service or other agencies. Often called a request for statements of interest. It's kind of like a pre-proposal. And we do some posting on the national website. In terms of whether or not an organization that's not part of the program can pursue an announcement, it's really up to the agency to make that determination. There have been situations where projects have been run or cooperative agreements have been administered with non-CESU partners, but adhering to the CESU kind of architecture framework program requirements. And that's based on mutual agreement between the federal agency and the recipient. So that is a possibility, but it has to be, it's a point of discussion between the sponsoring agency and the recipient. Some agencies really won't do that, but it just depends on the awarding, the opportunity, and who's kind of coordinating the project. And we also have had situations where an institution, if the timing allows, the institution will seek to become a member, and then the project can be supported through the program once that partner is on board.
Hey, Tom, this is Jennifer again. Along those lines, we got another question in that is probably up your alley here. So it is, how realistic is it to work across the CESU regions? They're wondering sometimes the Park Service preference is to work only within their regional CESU, and what strategies do we recommend to address that challenge to work across CESU regions?
So two points on that. One, to support a project under the CESU program, the recipient and the agency that's supporting the project both have to be parties to the same agreement. So in some of the CESUs, or should I say, some of the agencies are members in all 17 units, some of them are not. For example, the Bureau of Reclamation is only in 7 of the Western CESUs. They wouldn't support a project with a partner that's not in any of the CESUs where they are also a partner, like someone in the North Atlantic Coast, for example. But in terms of an agency like the Park Service or Fish and Wildlife that is in, or USGS in all 17 units, it's really, the decision is with the agency representative that's supporting the project. Sometimes they like to work with local partners, and other times, if the expertise that they're seeking is within a CES or in a CESU that's several states over or something like that, then they can pursue that. The other side of this coin is if an institution has expertise that they know the agency needs, then they need to make that known to the agency and kind of wave their flag and say, hey, we understand you have this need. We're the best game in town for that. Let's have a conversation.
This is Stan Bond, and I just wanted to say that at least for a number of archaeological projects, we often work across CESUs depending on who has the kinds of technology or the experience that we want. So, for example, the University of South Florida is doing a lot of remote sensing and digital recording of archaeological sites throughout the United States, and they've been as far west as Hawaii doing work. They've worked up here in the Potomac River Valley. So I think that at least for researchers that are very much interested in getting the best possible partners, that they'll look nationwide and not only within their region.
We had another question submitted from a student, and I went back to look at the list, and it looked like we did have a nice handful of students who raised their hand during that question. So we had a question that said they've graduated with their master's degree last December, and we hear this a lot, is you're sending out lots of resume packages and really trying to get involved and to get some work in. And the question is, how is the CESU projects available to somebody with a master's degree? The answer really lies in the professional qualifications that are required for the work. And so there are professional qualifications that require a PhD and experience to be the lead part of any of these applied projects. So what we have suggested to people in the past, recent graduates or people with master's level degree, is to become part of the team and have the team submit with your PhD lead anthropologist or lead archaeologist as the head of the team and submit that way. And maybe, Tom, I'm going to toss this one back to you too, because we have just maybe one more minute. Briefly, if you are not part of a university and you have another affiliation, I think that's a key point of how do you get in the CESU if you're not part of university, but maybe another member.
Yeah, so there are a couple of different ways that can happen. One is you can be brought on as a part of a team, as you were mentioning, to be a recipient of a sub-award under another institution's award. And then another model that we didn't really mention today too much, but we have, for example, one organization called the Organization of American Historians, where the organization is a member. They have the ability to submit proposals for projects and then work within their community of practitioners to help support on-the-ground projects. That's not limited to an institutional affiliation. That would be limited to where the individual is also a member, but that is something that the program is willing to explore in terms of looking at other organizations like American Association of American Historians, Organization of American Historians, yeah. So we're not atypical for it to be an individual as a member of the unit. It's typically an institutional membership, but there are some, there's more to it than that. So, I mean, I'm willing to have a conversation with someone too if they want to contact me and we talk about it.
Those were all of the questions that I saw, and Andrew, I think we might be at our time. So we're all in the room saying thank you to all of you for joining us today. This was a really wonderful interaction, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, I think there were a few more questions, but we are at the 3 o'clock mark, and I don't want to keep anyone too much longer than necessary. If it's all right with you guys, I would pass along any questions that we didn't get to, and then as time permits, maybe write up a blog post for AAA detailing the answers to these questions.
Perfect.
Let's see. Obviously, you know, people have your email addresses as well, but just as a note, yes, thank you everyone, you especially to the participants, but also to the attendees. You guys were amazing, very attentive. And we don't have, we're going to take a little break because of the call for papers on April 15th, but we might be doing something for the end of April. But if not, our next webinar will be on May 6th, and that will be discussing Veterans Affairs and quantifiable data with Kenda Stewart and Heather Rissinger. And so that should be very exciting. Please tune in for that and keep it on your calendars. But otherwise, have a good rest of your day. And again, thank you, Stan, Joe, Tom, and Jennifer. You guys were amazing. Thank you. And that ends it.
Thanks, everyone.